I'll never forget the sound of my own voice screaming as I watched my world crumble around me. The words, "You're just a pawn in my game," still echoing in my mind like a cruel mantra. It's a moment that's forever etched in my memory. A moment that changed everything I thought I knew about the people I trusted. But to understand how I ended up in that desperate place, you have to go back to the beginning. My life was routine, predictable, and honestly, pretty great. I had a good job, a loving family, and a close-knit group of friends. We'd meet up every week to grab dinner, watch a game, or just hang out. It was a comforting sense of normalcy that I had grown accustomed to. My best friend, Alex, was the glue that held our little group together. We met in college, and over the years, we'd been through thick and thin. He was the first person I'd call when I needed advice, or just needed someone to talk to. I considered him a brother, and I thought our bond was unbreakable. We'd often talk about our dreams, aspirations, and fears, sharing everything with each other. Or so I thought. As time passed, I started to notice that Alex was acting strangely. He'd cancel plans at the last minute, or not show up at all. When I'd ask him what was going on, he'd just brush it off, saying he was stressed with work or family issues. I gave him the benefit of the doubt, thinking that maybe he was just going through a tough time. But the distance between us started to grow, and I couldn't help but feel like something was off. I tried to talk to him about it, to see if everything was okay, but he just kept pushing me away. It wasn't until that fateful night, when I stumbled upon a conversation between Alex and someone else, that I realized the horrifying truth. "You're doing great, just keep playing along," the stranger said, their voice low and menacing. Alex turned to them, a sly smile spreading across his face. "Don't worry, I've got him right where I want him," he replied, his eyes glinting with a malice that made my blood run cold. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut, my mind reeling as I tried to process what I was hearing. "What's going on, Alex?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady, but he just turned to me, his expression cold and calculating. "You're just a pawn in my game, my friend," he said, the words cutting deep into my heart. As I sat in my dimly lit apartment, surrounded by stacks of dusty law books and empty coffee cups, I finally stumbled upon the loophole I had been searching for. It was a small, almost imperceptible crack in the armor of the company that had wronged me. But it was enough. I pored over the documents, my eyes scanning the pages with a mix of excitement and trepidation. The company, it seemed, had been so confident in their own power and influence that they had overlooked a small but crucial detail, a detail that could bring their entire empire crashing down around them. I spent the next few days studying the loophole, Leah, RNING, everything I could about it and how I could use it to my advantage. I pored over financial reports, talked to insiders, and even hired a private investigator to dig up dirt on the company's top executives. And what I found was shocking. The company was hiding a deep-seated corruption, a rot that went all the way to the top. They were embezzling funds, cooking the books, and bribing officials to look the other way. It was a massive scam, one that had been going on for years, and I had the proof right in my hands. With this new information, I began to formulate a plan. It would be a slow burn, a carefully crafted revenge that would take months, maybe even years, to come to fruition. But I was patient, and I was determined. I started by quietly gathering a team of allies, people who had also been wronged by the company, and were eager to see them brought down. There was Sarah, a former employee who had been fired after she discovered some of the company's shady dealings. There was Jack, a journalist who had been investigating the company for years, but had been unable to get any traction. And there was Emily, a young and ambitious lawyer who was eager to make a name for herself by taking on the big boys. Together, we began to build a case against the company. We gathered documents, interviewed witnesses, and pored over financial records. We worked tirelessly, often for 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. But we were driven by a shared sense of purpose, a desire to see justice served, and the company held accountable for their actions. As the weeks turned into months, our case began to take shape. We had a mountain of evidence, and we were confident that we could take the company down. But we knew that we had to be careful. The company was powerful, and they would stop at nothing to protect themselves. We had to be strategic, to pick our battles carefully, and to always stay one step ahead of the enemy. So we began to leak small bits of information to the press, to plant seeds of doubt in the minds of the company's investors and customers. We started a whisper campaign, a quiet but persistent drumbeat of rumors and accusations that would slowly but surely erode the company's reputation. And it was working. The company's stock price began to fall, their investors started to get nervous, and their customers began to lose faith. The company's executives were getting desperate, and they were starting to make mistakes. They were lashing out at their enemies, trying to silence us with lawsuits and intimidation tactics. But we were ready for them. We had anticipated their moves, and we had a plan in place to counter every attack. As the months dragged on, the company's empire began to crumble. Their top executives were resigning. Their stock price was in freefall, and their customers were abandoning them in droves. And I was right in the middle of it all, pulling the strings and watching with a sense of satisfaction as the company that had wronged me so badly was brought to its knees. It was a slow and painful death, but it was a death nonetheless. And I was the one who had administered the fatal blow. But the final nail in the coffin was yet to come. I had one last trick up my sleeve, a surprise that would ensure the company's complete and utter destruction. It was a risk, but it was one I was willing to take. I was ready to put everything on the line, to bet the farm on one final, daring move. And if it paid off, the company would be finished. They would be nothing more than a memory, a cautionary tale of what happens when you abuse your power and mistreat your employees. And I would be the one who had brought them down, the hero who had fought for justice and won. Asterisk. The fallout. It's been 2 years since the incident, and I'm thrilled to report that justice has been served. The corrupt CEO, who thought he was above the law, has been brought down. The investigation revealed a web of deceit and corruption that went all the way to the top. He was fired, sued, and even divorced by his wife, who couldn't handle the shame and scrutiny. The company was forced to pay millions in damages to the employees who were wrongfully terminated, including me. I received a substantial settlement, which I used to start my own business. It's been a challenging journey, but I've never been happier. I'm my own boss, and I get to do what I love every day. The best part is that I've been able to help others who have gone through similar experiences. I've become an advocate for workplace rights and have spoken at conferences and events, sharing my story to inspire and empower others. It's been an incredible feeling, knowing that I've made a difference in people's lives. As for the CEO, he's now a shadow of his former self. He's lost everything: his reputation, his family, and his fortune. He's a cautionary tale of what happens when you abuse power and think you're above the law. I often think about him and how he's doing, but I don't feel any pity or remorse. He got what was coming to him. I, on the other hand, am thriving. I've found a new sense of purpose and meaning in my life. I've made new friends and connections, and I've even started dating someone special. Life is good, and I'm grateful for every moment of it. In the end, it was all worth it. The struggle, the pain, the sacrifice. It was all worth it to see justice served, and to be able to move on with my life. I'm proud of myself for standing up for what's right, even when it was hard. TLDR.
A świat byłby zmuszony do przystosowania się do nowej rzeczywistości politycznej. Gwiazdka, rozwój technologii. Gwiazdka, pomimo ogromnych strat, wojna w erze cyfrowej przyspieszyłaby rozwój nowych technologii, zwłaszcza w dziedzinie bezpieczeństwa, wywiadu i wojskowości. Te przełomy technologiczne mogłyby przynieść wiele korzyści społeczeństwu, ale również nasilić ryzyko wykorzystania ich do celów destrukcyjnych. Gwiazdka, świadomość społeczna. Gwiazdka, doświadczenie wojny bez końca zmusiłoby ludzi do refleksji nad sensem konfliktów zbrojnych i ważnością pokoju. Świadomość społeczna dotycząca zagrożeń związanych z nowoczesnymi technologiami i koniecznością ich odpowiedzialnego użytkowania byłaby większa niż kiedykolwiek wcześniej. Wojna bez końca, prowadzona w erze cyfrowej, byłaby katastrofą, której skutków nie dałoby się w pełni przewidzieć. Wydaje się, że w obliczu takich wyzwań, ludzkość musi ponownie rozważyć swoje priorytety i dążyć do pokoju i współpracy, zanim będzie za późno. Jak mawiał Albert Einstein, wojna nie jest odpowiedzią na przemoc, lecz raczej jej eskalacją.